Good morning, traders and Steven. How's it going today, brother?
Oh, it's going pretty good. It's pretty good. I think we were talking just another sad weekend for fantasy football, but
Mm,
the Razorbacks had a nice overtime win.
that was a good one. Um,
Nothing like sticking it to LSU. Straight up.
that's that's absolutely true. Can everybody hear us okay? Happy Monday. Hope you all had a good weekend. And Steve, see you got a chart here.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll kind of give everybody just a couple minutes to kind of get going, and then we'll get live with the overall market. And today I'm going to talk a lot about cannabis stocks. That's kind of number one on the docket because as we get kind of deeper into a rally, sometimes it gets harder to find industries that haven't quite popped yet. So Friday, cannabis stocks made a big statement, and I want to pull up some charts and talk about that and talk about why you need to own some. So
Okay.
everybody kind of sounds loud and clear. If it's cool, Ben, if we can take our faces off so I can blow up the screen a little bit,
Mm,
we'll just go that route. And we'll start with the overall market. So kind of looking at the market right here, I mean, it looks pretty strong. We had a pullback kind of intra-week, kind of Tuesday or Monday, Tuesday, and then boom. For what it looks like right here, we haven't taken out last week's high or this high, but man, we're close. And based on everything that we're seeing in this trend, this looks like just like a small pullback within an uptrend. So don't, I caution you to don't try to pick the top of a rally because they always go longer than we think they do, especially in a super cycle, which we're currently in. And I'll talk more about that here in a second. But the market right now looks pretty good. And one thing I'd like to point out on the NASDAQ that looks quite a bit different than the S&P 500. Let's kind of blow this up for a second. You see all these accumulation days. This is accumulation is the day of above average buying, right? And we're talking a lot of money involved in the NASDAQ. So when the volume on the NASDAQ swells above average for 10 straight days, I went back 10 years, just kind of gave it the good old eyeball test, and I could not find a time where there were this many straight accumulation days. It's making me think that we are in a strong market, especially we got to kind of got to pull back, got close to the 20-day moving average. It looks like we're going to, in my opinion, break the highs. We haven't yet, but I think the Santa Claus rally is going to continue to be real. And like I said, we don't know where this market's going to go from here, but it's looking pretty strong. So I think you definitely want to be overweight more aggressive industries than underweight, and try to always time the top because you just never know when you're going to get that mega rally like we did last summer in the NASDAQ, where it just never stopped. It didn't stop for a very long time. So let's just kind of keep that in mind. Today I really want to talk about cannabis stocks, and that's really what I'm going to focus most of the day on. So let's look at this YOLO ETF right here. Cannabis stocks, they can be, I'm going to be the first one to admit, they can be incredibly frustrating, or especially have been this year, because you have all these, attempted rallies, attempted bounces that have just failed. Okay. And then you just have all these, pops above the 50-day, it rolls over. I mean, it peaked. This ETF got cut in half, over half, 50%. So now we have a clear personality change. On last week, I believe it was either possibly Friday or Monday or the previous Friday, you had a big pop above the 50-day moving average. Wouldn't quite call it a definitive breakout of a downtrend, but a pullback in a test of that trend line and a re-break right there. To me, that's bullish all day. And that is, if there was a place to swing the bat, if you didn't last week or you didn't on Friday, I think you need to go long now. And the downside is it's already popped. I mean, this is how quick the cannabis into stocks can move. Like you have a 6% pop in this YOLO ETF, and then another, almost 4% this morning. It's getting quickly extended. So, and it 1-2 days, and the market's extended. So, for me, if you don't have anything in the cannabis industry, I would go ahead and stick my toe in the water with just kind of a stop loss under Friday's low. It could very well pull back. I think the better low would be way down here, but you're looking at a much, much wider stop. So when I saw this last week, I stuck my toe in the water in the cannabis industry. When I saw this re-break on Friday, I definitely pushed my chips in the middle and bought some ETFs and some stocks, and just, now is the time, right? And again, we don't know where the market's going to go, but when I look at a place to swing the bat, I don't see a better place. I mean, this has a major, major slingshot approach, and let's just kind of look at it, right? It's been under the 50-day moving average for the most part since March. Now it popped its head above the 50-day moving average, found support, and had a re-break. So everything as far as technical analysis for putting in a bottom, my opinion, it looks pretty good right here. Now, that doesn't mean that it won't do this or any of this stuff, but I am completely looking at the cannabis industry as bullish setups right now. Excuse me. And again, when we're looking at a market that has already made a pretty big run, sometimes it's hard to find those industries that have lagged that now can have that catch-up potential. And I think that the cannabis industry fits that mold, that it's aggressive, right? It is completely lagged all year, and it has that catch-up potential to the overall market, and this can catch up very, very quickly. I mean, if an ETF can pop 10% in 2 days, sometimes that's good. That means you don't have to buy individual stocks to make a big move, right? You don't have to just stock pick. You can just buy the ETF and ride that out. Okay. So let's look at, that ETF looks really good. And I mean, there's really only a few. One that I own is POTX. That one, it's funny how this one's actually down a little bit and the YOLO is actually up, but that they don't 100% own the same stocks, but it did the same thing on Friday. It just absolutely popped, kind of did a re-break right there. I'll kind of blow this up just so you can see, like it really did a re-break, like it popped, it pulled back, re-broke right there, and it's pulling back this morning, but that's kind of to be expected a little bit. So I want to go and just see what's up the most. When you're looking for, I said, in the cannabis industry, you really don't need to buy individual stocks, just because you can see right here, this ETF went from $7 to $30. It's 4x in about 6 months, right? Probably unrealistic going forward, but I'm just going to pull up a list of cannabis stocks just to see what's up today. And when I'm looking at these bottoming patterns or these turnarounds of the industry, you want to see broad participation. Like you want all the stocks or majority of the stocks to really look like they have bottomed and they're starting to make a move. You can see right here, Trulieve Cannabis, TCNNF. This made a pretty nice breakout right here. You can see that it popped just like the ETF, pulled back, rebroke on Friday, and is now up quite a bit. Now, this stock reports today, so I wouldn't get involved in this, but we're just kind of going to go down the list. You have Columbia Care, and this isn't every cannabis stock out there, but it's starting to break out, and it popped on earnings on Friday, and now it has some follow-through. This is a really, really nice pattern right here. I don't know much about the company. I mean, they all provide cannabis solutions in some way, shape, or form, but that's a pretty legit breakout of a downtrend with, in my opinion, that target, it could reach for that 200-day moving average incredibly quickly Right now, it's 26% under that level. I see that as a potential target if this industry keeps moving. So let's keep going down. Take a sip of coffee. So this is popping back above the 50-day moving average today. I probably think there's better stuff out there, but let's just keep going down the list. Cresco, this looks really strong. So when you're combing through these aggressive industries, you want to buy the most aggressive stocks, not the weakest. So you have to think, if a lot of these individual stocks are now moving above their 50-day moving average, you have to kind of say to yourself, okay, what is the most above the 50-day moving average? Like what stock is leading the other stocks? And one that I do want to point out right here, Tilray, well, it was really popping this morning, but I mean, it really broke above the 50-day moving average and then pulled back and found support at the 50-day moving average. One of the few cannabis stocks that have done that, and then really popped back above it. So this one is honestly looking pretty good. There's lots of accumulation in these cannabis stocks right here. So I think Tilray is looking pretty nice. I mean, it is quite a bit. You just have to understand that these are some of the extended ones are quite a bit above support. Okay, there is another one that I really would like to point out. Ooh, where is that? I got a pretty big list here. It's not scrolling up or down. I'll just kind of go down the list. Green Thumb, right here. This is looking pretty strong, and I think it's important to note that all this has already reported earnings. And honestly, this one actually does not look as bad. Wasn't in a big of it's a nasty downtrend, but it didn't look as worse off as some of the rest of the stocks. Like it's only been below the 50-day moving average consistently since the beginning of August, where the other ones have been consistently under the 50-day moving average since really March. And now it's coming back, and it's coming back strong on earnings. There is a lot to buy right here if you like this industry. There's just a lot of stocks that are really starting to pop and giving an already extended market. I don't know why this isn't scrolling up or scrolling down. Grow Generation, this one is still below the 50-day moving average, so I think there's just better stuff out there. YOLO, this is the ETF. This is probably the more aggressive ETF. You know, I talk about if you don't want to figure out which individual stocks are not, you know, which ones are going to pop and which ones aren't, man, just buy the ETF. If the ETF can pop 10% in 2 days, I think you're good. One interesting play that I like is this AFC Gamma. All right, let's look at this chart for a second. So this is a cannabis REIT stock. So a REIT is a real estate investment trust. And to be defined as a REIT, you have to pass on 90% of your income in the form of dividends to shareholders. So it's basically a dividend paying stock. Now, this company right here is a REIT that originates loans for the legalized cannabis industry. This is a fairly new, as far as to the bigger exchanges goes. This might have been on a smaller exchange, but it's showing it IPO'd at 19. This is a very small, thinly traded stock, probably only about 100,000 shares a day. But, you know, I got to say, it's one of the nicer patterns I've seen. You have this IPO base that failed, and then you have another one that really created a nice cup with handle pattern, and you had a breakout on Friday. Look at all the accumulation that's coming into this. So again, I look at a lot of the cannabis industry that's been in a downtrend for a long time. This has just kind of been in a much larger consolidation. And there aren't that many cannabis REIT stocks out there, but this one to me looks pretty dang good with just a stop loss, probably right around 23. Okay, maybe a little bit lower under this bar. I would think that would hold. You have a definitive breakout. Again, this is a pretty thinly traded stock, so you probably can't pile in here. but this right here is at the top of my wish list. I might consider taking a position in this, given what cannabis stocks do today. But this looks good. The volume looks good. It's just a little thinly traded. And why I think there could be some movement in this stock is because I want to look at IIPR. This is another cannabis REIT stock, and this one just made such a huge move since it IPO'd in at $20. I mean, this I made some money on this, quite a bit of money on this little trend right here, and it's a really nice play. And why I like REITs in the cannabis industry, or I like non-growers in the cannabis industry. So, in my logic behind that is growers, they're just growing cannabis, and that's really a commodity. Commodities, the price it's just a race to the bottom as far as price goes. I think that doesn't mean the stock can't make a lot of big move, but I think a lot of the suppliers to the cannabis industry, like REITs, like individual shops that sell growing equipment, stuff like that, I think they have a lot more longevity than the individual growers, just because the individual growers are always going to buy their supplies, but they're selling a commodity that just the lowest price wins. Whereas a lot of these other cannabis stocks, they're supplying the growers, they're looking pretty good because they don't have that margin pressure. That is just a pure fundamental case. But, so far I've made some pretty decent money in IIPR last year in GRWG. So that looks pretty good. Let's go to a couple of, so I'm just really giving you a nice watch list. All right. I like AFCG. I think that one's looking pretty good. I like Tilray. I think that one's looking pretty good. And I think a lot of these, again, we want to focus on stocks that have already reported earnings. Now, one thing we have to keep in mind, let me find Village. I think this one looked pretty good. This Village Farms. So one thing we have to keep in mind is more stocks are set to report earnings. It could absolutely suck these back down into a downtrend. Like, I don't think we're out of the woods yet, but I think that if you're looking for a place to swing the bat, if you're looking for a place to stick your toe in the water, now is probably as good a time as any. Okay. So let's look. So that's the cannabis industry, and that's really my case. And again, if you're not really sure which one to choose, there's so many choices. An ETF like YOLO is looking pretty strong, and right now it's 11% above the 50-day moving average. It's probably a nice place to put the stop, right around that area, because if it rolls back below it, you don't want to get involved in that anyways. Just let the trade roll over and fail. That's totally fine. You can see right here, if I scroll to the top ETFs, so far today, right, this YOLO ETF, this is definitely leading the pack. So one other thing that's, you kind of notice that some of the other, like you have this crypto ETF right here, or the Bitcoin Trust, this one's looking pretty interesting. It just continues to go to the moon. And that's why I also want to talk about Riot, kind of how to play Riot. I talked several weeks ago how I've played this 3 times now. I'm on my 3rd time. And this is something that I've constantly been talking about in the show. And this is why I think this is a great case study and a great lesson of why buying stocks back, if they don't work out for whatever reason, there's nothing wrong with that. Usually my best trades are the ones where I have to buy them 2 or 3 times if I'm convinced, right, before they make their big move. It's usually that way in the crypto market because it's just so volatile. But I bought Riot right here, sold I think half of 10%, rolled over, stopped me out for a small gain. I rebought it right here, stopped me out for a small loss. And then on this day, on November 2nd, it came right back in above average volume. I bought it again, and now I'm up like 50%. So, I'm on my 3rd trade, made a little, lost a little, made a lot. So again, I think we all have this kind of idea that if we get stopped out of a stock that we want to punish it. We want the stock to go down forever. But if you had conviction in the stock and you're about to, it could potentially make a big move. I think this is a great lesson for why you buy it back, why you don't just kind of throw it out, because some of the greatest trades that I've had are just the ones that really just want to wear you out. They're very, very volatile. And I understand that you can make the case for, well, why not just buy and hold it? Well, because you never know when something like this is going to happen. And if you buy and hold it, I mean, you could easily, that 10% stop loss could easily turn into minus 50 or minus 75%, especially with some of these parabolic moves. All right. So I definitely would not chase Riot right now. One thing that I am doing is, this is the green 5-day moving average, I believe. A lot of times when you get these parabolic moves, I really like to slap an 8-day moving average on it and just kind of ride that for a second. So let me kind of pull that up. Let me see if I can. Moving averages. Let me turn this 5-day into an 8-day. So it kind of backed it off a little bit. And you can see a lot of times when you have a parabolic move, that 8-day moving average just seems to be a nice fit. And it will come back and it found support once at the green line, another time. And it gives it enough room where you're not choking the trade out, meaning you don't have too tight of a stop. It can pull back for a couple days and then keep going. But if it falls below this line, usually on a straight up move, then that's usually my exit, because a lot of times when you have parabolic moves, you can't always use the 50-day moving average because it's such a lagging line that it can go to the moon and pull way, way back before that moving average really has a chance to catch up. Okay. So let's look at another one, and SKX. Skechers is interesting to me because, and this was a stock I've been looking at for a couple of weeks, but it hadn't really made its move. But here's what's interesting to me about Skechers is that it had a huge earnings pop, right, first quarter of the year. It had another big earnings pop second quarter of the year, and then it had another big earnings pop, right? And the stock is still down. So it continues to beat the street, whatever the street is guessing, right? Or the street tends to like it. But right here, you have a serious downtrend, and then it moved back above the 50 and 200-day crossover right there. So if this stock, to me, this seems like if it moved above that level on earnings and then it came back, it seems to find support. With something like this, it's just now it's going sideways. You got support under it, and I would probably buy it on the way up. Something like as it crosses above this line. That's still looking pretty good to me right there. Just because you have this above average volume move, and eventually all these earnings are going to really catch up. I think this stock to me is, even though this isn't a really definitive pattern, but it moved above support and nice earnings and is kind of quietly going sideways, which I like it. I like when something's quiet and going sideways. So that's really all I have for today, Ben. Just kind of recap. I think everybody needs to sharpen their cannabis watch list and really pay attention. And when in doubt, if you're unsure which stock to go with, the ETFs really are making nice moves right now where you don't have to pick the individual stocks.
Got it. All right. There's the case for cannabis. Chris, interesting question. If everyone keeps buying weed from their drug dealer, how can a cannabis stock go up? Well, the answer is they won't. They won't always buy weed from their drug dealers. It will be more regulated, more mainstream, and probably at some point you can get it from the gas station. So just it's a good industry to get into, as Steve said. What are we looking at, Steve? Tickers for a couple minutes?
Well, just the ones I just went through. I think that YOLO, the ETF, is looking like the strongest ETF. It has gapped. It might pull back a little bit. But this one is looking pretty good right here. I think the AFCG, this cannabis REIT, to me, this just looks like a really, really nice cup with handle breakout. And I mean, it kind of looks choppy right here, but I like it. It does have a 6% dividend. Not that I trade off anything that has a dividend, but it hit all-time highs. It broke out of this IPO consolidation and lots of volumes coming in. And another one I would look at is Skechers and just kind of see if this can move this way. I think it's probably the safest play. And if it really moves above this bar right here, I think that could be a reasonable entry. But with something like Riot, like I said, it's getting, don't go chasing this. It's can get pretty steep pretty quickly. But I think the 8-day moving average is a nice trailing stop.
Okay, great. Guys, do we have any questions from what we just covered?
Ticker CHPT. ChargePoint Holdings operates of a network of electric charging stations. That's actually one I might watch. Yeah, to me, this, so it's clearly it's got that parabolic tendency, right? And it's been consolidating ever since it peaked over a year ago. But I mean, I see bullish right here, even though it's in a larger consolidation, because it did gap above the 200-day moving average right there. I don't know why my pen isn't working. Right there. And then pulled back to the 20-day moving average, and now it's trying to break through. So to me, you could always buy it as it crosses above last week's high. If you already own it, I would hold it and put a stop loss probably right under here. Just keep in mind when it reports in 22 days. Estimated, that's always an estimate. Those can change. So it could change, right? I usually never buy within 2 weeks of earnings. Right now we're at 3. But I might actually throw this on the watch list just to keep an eye on it. Because it's the kind of fast movers that I look for. And when you are deeper into a rally, which maybe we're halfway through, maybe we have literally half more to go, which would be nice. But the second half of any rally, I really like to go after more aggressive names, because I don't want to buy stocks that just move in line with the market. I need a stock that can hit the 8% target very, very quickly, because time is now not on our side. At least I don't think it is when you're deeper into a rally. So I'm going for the stocks that can honestly win or lose very, very quickly. Okay, so seasonality speaking, statistically, we see the stock market uptrends towards Christmas. Yet inflation continues to rise. Do you think we'll see precious metals and stocks continue the uptrend together? I normally, so first of all, I do believe the Santa Claus rally is real, because it seems to happen almost every year, except for 2018. So I always have bullish biases November and December. But I want the price to continue. Do I think that metals, I mean, to me, metals are not, or at least precious metals, are not really in that strong of an uptrend. They're still in a downtrend, even though gold was trying to make a move last week. This is the Gold Miners ETF. So do I think they'll move, to answer your question, do I think we'll move in line together? I really don't know. I kind of I focus on the chart and I take it day by day and just go from there. That's kind of a prediction question. The only thing I think I can predict is right now we are in an uptrend. So anything outside of that, it's just kind of hard. It's just a guessing game. Anything else?
Neil, thanks for the kind words. We appreciate it.
One more thing that I do want to talk about real quick. Give me 1 second. I'll pull it up on my screen. Is I do have a brand new workshop that is starting tomorrow. Now, this is a live workshop. I'm launching my new FANG momentum system. This is a trend following system number 3. if you want to learn more about that, you can. I did a webinar last Thursday, the tradesplan.com-market/update, and you can watch this presentation to learn more about this. I have not launched a new trading system in approximately 3 years, so I've been working on this and trading it for quite some time now, and I'm very excited to launch this and share this with you. If you want to attend the workshop, or if you just want to learn more about that, you can go to the tradesplan.com/market update. Since the workshop's starting tomorrow at 12 p.m. Central Time, I'll have to cut off sales as of tonight, but I'd go ahead and check that out, and you can just watch that and see if that's for you or not. Email us if you have any questions. But that trading system is legit. I'll just put it that way.
I'm going to try to put that in the...
But that's all I got. I don't see any more tickers. It's 30 minutes after the hour. So
Real quick, let me put this in the... Let me drop this link.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Okay. Put that link down there in the bottom. Yeah, Super Cycle presentation. You guys should definitely watch that. Sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
Nope, that's it. I wish everybody a blessed Monday and a blessed week. Everybody stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you on the inside on the workshop.
Thanks, guys.